What an awesome big game box. I want to show this to my kids. Where are my kids? Where's kid number 1?
Hello.
Where's kid number 2?
Hello.
Thanks for clicking on the video, and here today at Mimic, we are so happy to present to you Dune, War of Arrakis. This is a brand new board game published by CMON Games, and they had a Kickstarter for this massive miniature-based game back in 2023, and we finally got our Harvester pledge in yesterday, and we're so happy to have it in hand, and we'll unbox it, check out all the components, and especially the cool miniatures within this big set. Now, the Harvester pledge is basically their basic pledge. It doesn't include their 2 expansion packs, and I'm okay with that. I don't even know if this is a great game to play, but we love the IP, and more importantly, we love the miniatures that are supposed to come within this box, and it will have all the Kickstarter exclusives, including the Old Man of the Desert, which is this massive sandworm. So let's get this box open and check out the components. So before we got this box open, we could see the font for the title Dune here. It's basically the same shape, but oriented in the different cardinal directions. I think it's pretty cool and stylized. Anyways, let's get this box unsealed. And I got my box cutter here. Make a little cut there, cut on the side, cut over the top here. And while I'm getting this open, if you're new to the channel, like what you see, hopefully consider sharing and subbing to help us grow, as we're going to always feature more cool unboxings, whether it's a new game like this or old retro games. And we got free giveaways to promote on the channel as well. I'll put a link down below for that. So it's pretty well packaged. You can see it has styrofoam covers for the edges. And yeah, it looks pretty ding-free to me. So this is not the first CMON game we've ordered, and they always come well packaged, so you never have to worry about damage. All right, so this is a massive box here. It's pretty cool looking. You can see here the main character, Paul Andreades, and on the flip side, see the Emperor and his legions there. So pretty nice design. All right. So you can see that it does have the legendary film studio logo here. So the models of the vehicles and the models of the characters within will sort of be based on the movie as well. So it's the newer film, not the old 1980s film that features Sting, which I did grow up with. So Dune, of course, is not just a movie, it is also a novel. It's written by Frank Herbert back in 1965, and it was actually a required reading for me when I was growing up in the 80s in high school. I don't know if it's something required nowadays or if you guys had to read it in your school, but it was pretty cool that I had to do so. So let's get this box looked at. We saw the cover, and let's see the sides of the box here. It features basically the same artwork, just blown up here. Here's the Emperor. All right, and the top of the box. Okay, so let's see the back of this box, and you can appreciate the game board here. You can see here there are some miniatures of the sandworms, but once again, this should also include the much larger Old Man of the Desert miniature, which is not going to be in the standard box. So this box here will have 161 miniatures, some stands, dice, boards, cards, tokens, and I'm glad the tokens are less than 100. I don't like a whole bunch of tokens, and 1 bag and a rule book. It can be soloed, it looks like, and it can have up to 4 players, 14 plus. And yeah, each campaign or game might take 2 hours. So we'll find out about that in the future if it's true or not. So Dune, War of Arrakis is a thematic strategy board game centered around the Desert War events of the acclaimed Dune novel by Frank Herbert. The world is supported by 4 things: the learning of the wise, the justice of the great, the prayers of the righteous, and the valor of the brave. But all of these things are nothing without a ruler who knows the art of ruling. I should also point out on this box, it does have that special bar here showing that it is the exclusive edition. So if you're looking for this in your local game store, you might want to look for that. If you don't have that, it's probably the standard edition. It is also on the front cover here, exclusive edition. So that's what you're looking for. It's actually on the top here in reverse as well. All right, so let's get this box open. It's always cool to check out a brand new board game. Got the plastic coming off here. All right, shrink's coming off. Pretty easy to do. Okay, let's get this lid off. And it's gonna come off slowly since it's fresh. All right. Okay, so the lid's off. There's nothing printed underneath there. We got some stuff here on the top. Let's see if there's any artwork on the sides. And yeah, it looks like there is some. It's gonna be a little hard to show you guys. But yeah, I got some character art here. More character art on the sides of the box. Well, that's pretty neat. There you go. Okay. Pretty heavy box to hold. Okay, so we got your standard CMON little advertisement here. Put that off to the side. Got a rule book here. Do have a little cheat sheet for player aid, and it's 48 pages long. Let's flip through this briefly. Okay, so it's going to show the list of the components, of course, and this is what I was telling you about. This is the main reason why I wanted to get this Kickstarter exclusive for this massive Old Man of the Desert miniature. They do have, it looks like 4 other sandworms in the game, but these are gonna pale in comparison to this one here. All right, so let's move on. Some additional components. Special rules if you have more than 2 players. Description of the game board. Player dashboards. Leaders you could choose, the vehicles, which once again should be pretty cool. I just feel like a kid playing with a toy army. So you can see here on this page, the board game's all set up with all the player pieces, and it just makes you giddy to see all these miniatures having a toy army at your control. It just really brings out the kid within me. All right, so here's the game round. Phase 1 will be vehicle placement. Phase 2 will be action resolution. Phase 3, desert hazards. Phase 4, spice harvesting. Some general rules about movement here. How a battle is supposed to progress. Some other special rules here. We'll see what this is all about later. Obstacles or environmental hazards. Some of the special characters that you could use within the game. The harvesters. And the Old Man of the Desert. Once again, that's going to be that massive sand word player piece. Future, possible futures. So this is a module for the game that allows players to play out what they would have happened if some of the key events of the novel have not unfolded exactly as written. Okay, so I guess different scenarios you could use. quite a number of them. So I guess that will lend to some replayability. And once again, special rules for more than 2 players. And here is the dedicated solo mode. I will eventually play this game. I'll see if my daughter can manage it. But that'll probably take some time to get it all set up and read all the rules. Okay, so that is the rule book. Let's see, a lot of cardboard here. It's all sealed up. I guess we should check out this as well. Let's see if I can make a little cut here on the side without cutting any of the components. All right, it's coming off now. Okay, smells nice. So looks like we got a player board for House Arrakis. Spice Must Flow board. Prime board. Tar board. Regeneration tank. Another one for the different houses here. Freeman Ally. And some tokens. So that's good. Not too many of them. All right, so I guess there's some artwork on the back here, the houses. Okay, so we'll set these off this side. And now for the main show, the miniatures within this big box. This, if you've ever seen these boxes before, if you pull here, you're probably gonna bend all the cardboard. So you're probably gonna have to flip this upside down to get it out. Oh, and surprise, surprise, there is more cardboard, and this is gonna be the massive game board. And a box of miniatures. You can get a sense of what's inside by this little aid here to place all your miniatures within the box. So we'll take a closer look here. We'll open this up and look at the actual miniatures, but we'll just get a little sneak peek here. Okay. But before we do that, we should check out this game board. All right, finally got some of it off. Looks like it's probably gonna be 6 panels large. Oh, 2 separate pieces. All right, so let's take a look at this first one here. All right, so this one is 4, and nothing on this side. I'm assuming you still have to use this other one because you can see the terrain is cut in half there. So instead of a large 8-piece board, it's split up in 4. I suppose that's fine. And less risk to the paper that will hold a massive board together. So that gives you a sense of the terrain here. Here is the board game laid flat adjacent to each other, and it does make for a huge game area to play. To give you a size reference, this catalog piece of paper is postcard size. You can see how it's dwarfed by this massive play area. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure it'll make a great temple presence, especially once the miniatures are on board. All right, now getting back to the start of the show, the miniatures. Let's get this box open and check out the minis within. And once again, from the back reference, there's probably going to be 4 trays within. All right. So this is pretty cool to see that there are different colorations to the minis. So if you're not inclined to paint them, you will be able to discern the different armies easily. We've got a huge pile of dice here. They're all customized, it looks like. It's pretty neat. We've got some deck of playing cards here. Here we got the Duke, Leto. We'll open up these in the future. Paul Andreades, the main character there. Okay, nice. Got this cloth bag. I'm not sure if this will be in the standard edition. I'm assuming that this is probably just in the Kickstarter exclusive edition. Probably to hide some tokens within here. And we got some miniatures. So I'm gonna get this all laid out on a display. But maybe let's take a quick sneak peek at them on the trays themselves. So that's tray 1, obviously. Here's tray 2. You can see a huge sandworm already there. This is tray 3. And looks like underneath there is another tray, the 4th tray. There you go. All right, so these are some of the vehicles. All right, so I'm gonna get all of these components on the display and we'll check them out. But once again, the star show will be this guy. You can see already how much more massive he is compared to the other sandworms. And that is, once again, the sole reason why I wanted to get this exclusive edition. So now we're going to show off each miniature here and go through each one individually. And if there is an associated card, we will display it as well. I'm going to organize this tray by tray, and we'll start off, of course, with tray 1. And that also contains the main hero, and he's actually placed in a center part of the tray, and that, of course, is Paul Atreides. Now, before we continue more, I should give you a sense of scale here. Here is your standard D&D figure, typically about 25 millimeters, and you can see the miniature is actually a bit smaller. I think it's even smaller than 28. I could be wrong about that. Now, I'm sure it's kept a little bit smaller because they want to keep the sandworms to scale. And as you probably saw, the sandworms are quite large. So let's continue. So this, of course, is Paul Atreides. His card says, play at the start of the game. And there's some icons there. I don't know what they mean yet since I haven't played the game. But let's move on. Up next is the hero form of Paul. You can see this sculpt is much cooler. He has a commanding stance overlooking a rock outcrop, and he got his sword at the ready, and his cape looks windswept. It's a pretty cool sculpt. Up next, we have Lady Jessica, and this is a pretty beautiful sculpt. She has a nice long flowing gown there, and it's a little tailored or tasseled at the end, so that would be pretty fun to paint. Up next, we have the hero form of Jessica. This is Reverend Mother Jessica, and you can see her dress is now changed to a more somber attire. Pretty cool looking sculpt though. The headdress looks pretty neat. Up next, we have Stilgar, and this is a pretty cool looking sculpt. You can see his cape is being swept by the desert winds, and he got his weapon in repose there. Next up, we have Chani here, and this is a pretty nice sculpt as well. All these sculpts look very dynamic. And I should also mention that there is, of course, artwork on the card, and it's not photographs from the movie, so I'm really happy about that. I tend not to like games or artwork or book covers even with stills from films, as over the years they will look quite dated, but artwork I think is more forever. Next up, we have Gurney Halleck. And this is a pretty interesting sculpt. He does have some sort of musical instrument on his back there. Next up, we have the smallest miniature in the group, and this is Aaliyah. And she is a child, of course, and has a very simple garb. I'm sure she'll be very easy to paint. Next up, we have a miniature of Duke Leto, and he has a sort of interesting pose there. I think the miniature is a little bit warped, probably from storage, and if you're not aware of this, you can use a bath of hot water, then splash it with cold water after positioning the miniature in what it's supposed to be. I think it is slightly off-center. Up next, we have Shai-Hulud, and he has a very detailed sculpt. His battle uniform does have a lot of medals and ornaments on the front, and that'll be pretty interesting to paint. Next up, we have a sculpt of Dr. Yu, and it's a little off-center. It's tilted to the side. It's sort of interesting because so you can see the artwork here. I think he's about to die, and maybe the tilting of his sculpt is foreshadowing that. Next up, we have one of my favorite characters. It's Duncan Idaho. So here he got his weapons at the ready, and it looks like he's ready to head off into battle. Next up, we have Jameis, and he got a weapon in hand and ready to do battle as well. The last miniature in the tray is a building. It's a desert dwelling, and there are 8 of these setches. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. So moving on to tray 2, which has the opposing army. We'll start off with the largest figure in the bunch, and that would be the Baron himself here. Now, in retrospect, I believe this Baron is actually the main figure on the front cover of the box, and it's not the Emperor, but the Baron himself here. And yes, he has a tall stature and has this overwhelming commanding presence. Much smaller than Baron is Peter here, and he just is standing, looking composed, I suppose. Next up, we have the Beast, and he is dual wielding some weapons like Duncan Idaho. We'll do a full turnaround so you can appreciate his sculpt from all the angles. Next up, we have Captain Ramsham, and he has a pretty nice sculpt. He does also have a very detailed military type armor. Next up, we have Shai-Hulud. This miniature looks pretty boring to me. It's probably the worst in the bunch. He's just giving a speech or something like that. I guess, if I put him some hot water, make him tilt a little forward, he'll probably look a little bit better, but still not too exciting. Next up, we have a sculpt of Fade here, and sort of an interesting pose. Not exactly sure what he's doing there, maybe taunting an enemy or something of that nature. Next up, we have the Emperor himself. It's a very detailed sculpt. His military uniform definitely has a lot of detailing, as you can see here in the portrait, and it's of course reflected on the miniature itself. So pretty nice. Next up, we have a miniature of Gaius Helen. Very interesting that this is in the game. I'm not sure how it relates to it, but in the film, it was a very interesting cinematic moment. Next up, we have a miniature Count Fenring, and he has a very interesting, graceful battle stance here. Next to him, we have Lady Fenring, and she has a very elegant gown on. We'll have her do a full turn so you can appreciate her sculpt in all the different angles. Next up, we have the princess herself. It's a very elegant pose and portrait here. It almost looks out of place compared to everything else within the game. It's pretty neat that I included it though. Next up, we have a miniature icon. Looks like he has a sword in one hand and he's holding his helmet in another arm. Nothing too special about this miniature. So we just finished all the heroes on tray 1 and 2. Now we're moving on to some of the generic army units. So first up, we have a Bashar leader. There are 6 of these, and I have to admit this is a pretty cool miniature. I do like having the standard there and his sword out and his cape flowing. It's pretty neat. I think it would make a great table presence, and it definitely strikes me as being a leader of all the other generic units you will see in a bit. So only the leader of the army has an associated card. All the other army units do not. So I got rid of the card holder, and now we're going to show off these regular units. And if there is more than one variation type, I'm going to put them all on the stand together. So what we have in front of us is the elite unit, and there are 2 variations. You can see one has a rifle held down, and the other is holding his rifle up. You should also note that the base is a little different. This has a square base. I'm not sure what that designates. Once again, I haven't actually played the game, but I'm sure there's some meaning to that. Next up, we have the soccer dart unit. It's a dual-wielding soldier. One has both swords held across each other, like a cross, and the other one has one held up high. This is also noted to have a hexagonal base. As I mentioned, these are army units, so there are multiple counts of these minis. Next up, we have a squad of regulars. There are 3 variants. One here has a pistol held high, another looks like he has a knife, and the other has a sword at the ready. Okay, so now we're moving on to tray number 3, and we'll start off with the head of the Green Army. This is the leader model. It's a pretty cool dynamic pose, maybe not as big as the Red Army with the standard, but still pretty cool nonetheless. Okay, so these are the elite models for the Green Army, and they have 2 different variations. One has a crossbow-looking device, and the other has a sword at hand. This also has a square base to match the Red Army. These are the Fedaykin units. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. There are 2 variants. They also have a hexagonal base. Both of them look like they are about to leap in the air and swing their sword down. It's a pretty cool dynamic pose. The next unit we have are the Freeman regular units, and there's only 2 variations of these. One has a pistol in hand, and the other one looks like has a sword at the ready. In tray 3, we have another building. This is the ecological testing station, so another structure to place on the board. I'm going to move on to tray 4. The worms are actually in tray 3, but I'm going to save those big miniatures at the very end. So this is known as a village, and there are 4 of these. This one is Arrakis. It's a specialized structure. There's only 1 of these. This is another specialized structure. It's Carthag. There's only 1 of these units as well. Now we're moving on to the vehicles. This, of course, is a spice harvester. It's based on the design in the film, and it's really cool looking. It has nice detailed treads. You got spice containers on the side here. It feels like one solid piece of plastic. It's really hefty and feels really nice in your hand. And there are 8 of these. Next, we have my favorite vehicle in the whole franchise, and that's the Ornithopter here. It comes with a detachable base, and there are 6 of these vehicles. Looks really neat. I can't wait to play with it. The last vehicle we have is the Carryall, and there are 3 of these. It comes with its own detachable base, and it's a very large flying vehicle. Pretty cool to look at. Now, I got curious if the harvester can be carried by the Carryall, but unfortunately it cannot. Looks like it's a missed opportunity. If they sculpted this a little bit smaller, it could actually probably fit into the slot there. So I wish they had done that. That'd been really cool. So we finished all of the units except for the Sandworms, and these are in tray 3 at the bottom. And there are 4 of these regular Sandworms. This one is a little bit smaller compared to the others. Let me put a little person there for size reference. You can see it's not too gigantic, but still a pretty nice dynamic sculpt. So next up, we have a much larger sandworm. This is known as the Wild Maker. It does come with its own specialized card. Of course, it's not going to show the entire worm, but the mouth is so much larger than that other regular sandworm you just saw. For size reference, here is a regular unit. So it is much bigger, as you can see. And the very last miniature in the box is the largest piece of them all. This is the sandworm known as the Old Man in the Desert. It's so huge, it doesn't even fit on screen. So I'm gonna put him somewhere else so you can get a sense of scale of what he's all about. So the very last miniature in the box is this humongous sandworm. It's known as the Old Man in the Desert, and he doesn't even fit on screen here. So I am gonna put him somewhere else so you could get a sense of scale, and he is, once again, unique to this exclusive edition. This here is the smaller regular sandworm, and next to him is the medium-sized sandworm, Wild Maker, and the last one is the humongous Old Man of the Desert miniature. I gotta zoom out so you can see the whole thing, and I got a regular unit there for size reference. It looks really cool on the table, all 3 of these. So we're gonna have fun playing with these. This once again has been our unboxing of Dune, War of Arrakis board game, published by CMON Games. This is once again the exclusive edition here, and it comes with this special miniature, which I think it's worth it. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have fun out there. Keep on adventuring.